their stories. I'd also like to thank everyone in attendance for coming to listen. We have three remarkable individuals who are going to tell you some things that are not so nice to hear, but it's important for everyone to hear them. We need to raise awareness about this issue. As you can see here, according to the National Registry of Exonerations, as of today, more than 3,200 people have been exonerated, meaning they've been wrongfully convicted of crimes that they did not commit. If you look at these three remarkable individuals, they spent a combined 70 years plus behind bars for crimes they did not commit. Now, I don't want to make this about me or the university, so I'm going to turn it over to these individuals, but I do feel the need to introduce them because they are remarkable. First, we're going to hear from Kenneth Nixon. He is the chairman of the Organization of Exonerees. He's an advocate for criminal justice reform. He is a fellow WSU warrior in political science. He's been out just 19 months, and he is a Detroit native. The state of Michigan stole 15 years and 9 months from him. Next, we're going to hear from Marvin Cotton Jr., who is the founder of Better Not Broken. He is a community leader, a justice advocate, the vice president of the Organization of Exonerees, and also a Detroit native. The state of Michigan stole 19 years and 7 months from him. Finally, we're going to hear from my friend, Darrell Siggers, whom I met 4 years ago to the day on Sunday, the actual date of International Wrongful Conviction Day, when he had been just out for about 32 days at that point. He is the founder of Legal Access Plus, a business that he designed while he was incarcerated. He is a criminal justice reform advocate. He is a policymaker. All three of these individuals have spoken to legislatures in the state of Michigan. They toured the country talking to college campuses as well as other entities. So them being here today for us is a true treat. Darrell is also a Detroit native, and believe it or not, the state of Michigan stole 34 years and 6 months from him. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Kenneth.
How you doing, everybody? My name is Kenneth Nixon. I spent 15 years and 9 months incarcerated for a crime I didn't commit. I was exonerated on February 18, 2021. Before I get started, I'm going to make sure I thank the host, sure. This is, talking to college students is something that is very, very important, especially when it comes to criminal justice reform. To give you a backstory of what led me here today. My son's mom was having an affair with a friend of mine. Naturally, that caused some friction between he and I. Someone tried to set his house on fire, and in the course of that fire, 2 children passed. Because of our back and forth history, my name came up in the investigation. Once my name came up, I was arrested. I was the only suspect ever investigated, and I was convicted. From the day that I was arrested to the time I was sent to prison, it was less than 6 months. I was sentenced to 2 natural life sentences plus 40 to 60 years. I was sentenced to die in prison. It took 15 years, almost 16, to prove my innocence. I appealed repeatedly to no avail. It took the Innocence Project and the Wayne County Conviction Integrity Unit to eventually get me out. I walked out of prison just over 19 months ago. Since coming home, I've become a huge advocate for criminal justice reform. Not only because of what happened to me, but because of the people that I met on the inside. It's necessary, it's absolutely necessary that we reform our system. Lives are being stolen from people for no reason. The government abuses their power. in many instances all over the country. This is not just a Detroit problem. This problem happens all over the country. We've traveled the country together, Marvin and I, Darrell and I, us together, bringing awareness to wrongful convictions all over this country. Wrongful convictions happen everywhere. There are over 2,600 prosecutors' offices in this country. And I guarantee you that every one of them has at least one wrongful conviction. Reform is of the utmost importance. Unfortunately, criminal justice is one of those things that nobody cares about until it touches somebody close to you, or you yourself. But most often, by that time, it's too late. You can't pay a lawyer from behind bars. Most times, you can't call a family member from behind bars. One of the worst feelings in the world is to be accused of something that you didn't do. To double down on that bad feeling is to be convicted of something that you didn't do. And for the three of us, it wasn't just a dope case or a gun case, something that had an out date. We were all sent to die in a cage for the rest of our lives for crimes that we didn't commit. We were sent to suffer the mental agony of being convicted of something that we didn't do, while being surrounded by injustice every single day. And injustice is a big word. It doesn't stop at wrongful convictions. Injustice looks different for many people. Mental health is a serious issue. In the state of Michigan, at one point, prison became the answer for everything. And in some respects, it still is. The person's having a mental health episode, they send them to prison. That's not fair. That's not right. When that person needs help, they don't need a cage. We have to fix what's broken within our system. And us, individually and collectively, we bring a voice to that. Because we know and we understand what it looks like. I know we look like three just regular guys up here. But what we've endured and what we've seen up close, nobody in this room could imagine. But it didn't stop us, and it didn't slow us down. In 19 months, I've co-founded the organization of exonerees. I've traveled the country advocating. I've started several companies. I'm on the board of 2 major reform organizations in the state of Michigan. I'm also on 2 committees for the National Innocence Project. We are what reform looks like. Every part of our system is flawed. From the arrest, to the conviction, to the sentence, to just getting it right. Why is it so hard for people just to get it right? When it comes to criminal justice, you'd be surprised to know or learn some of the things that we've learned. A very hard lesson. Some of the things that we've seen, most of you probably couldn't even stomach. The bloodshed, the violence, the goriness. Prison is exactly what it sounds like. And we had to survive that in order to be able to come here today. I've probably seen more bloodshed than a war zone. And it wasn't because I asked for it. It wasn't because I volunteered for it. I was forced into a situation against my will and required to survive. There's no fairness in that. There's no justice in that. But you, everybody in this room, is a part of that change. You being here today is a part of that change. You've opened your mind enough to know that the system is flawed. The question is, what are you going to do about it? We're doing what we can, at least to some extent. But what are you going to do about it? As people that are connected to criminal justice, what are you going to do to be the change that everybody knows is necessary? Think about that question for a while.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Professor Charles and Bill for proving innocence. Huge advocate for the innocent. I'm honored to be here today, with my brothers. I've been to 14 different prisons in Michigan, and all of us was actually at the same prison at the same time at one point in that. And I know Darrell has probably been to a lot more prisons than me. I woke up one day and my eyes popped open and I was staring at a wall that looks very similar to that, white brick, just like it in fact. And I laid there for a second. Then I realized I didn't know where I was at. So I kind of like scrambled in a panic and I jumped up off of a top bunk until my feet hit the ground. And then I realized that I was in a cell. Now, this was in 2006. So I went to the mirror, which is really just a polished steel, bolted and welded to the wall. And it took me a minute to even realize what my own name was. I just couldn't remember. And I didn't remember how I got where I was at. But after a few seconds, my memory came back and I realized that I was in prison and had been in prison for several years up until that point. But for some reason, the stress and, poor diet and just being in prison at that time, I was fighting the federal district court, the Eastern District Court of Michigan. And the stress from that just was so much that it affected my memory like that. Several years earlier in 2001, I was arrested, charged, convicted, all in the same year. I was charged with first-degree murder and felony firearm. My co-defendant and I, and we went to trial. And 4 days later, we were found guilty. And a little while later, we were sentenced to natural life in prison without the possibility of parole. A friend of mine was murdered. And the police, the detectives involved in the case, according to some of the information that the Conviction Integrity Unit had uncovered, went to a drug dealer in the community, and the drug dealer in the community went somewhere else that's undisclosed, brought them back my name, and then the detectives in the case went and took my name to one of the witnesses in the case, and then the witness in the case came to trial and testified as if he had firsthand knowledge. And them discovering that was one of the things that led to my conviction being vacated and my release. Coming through prison, made all of us into the men that's standing before you. Can't say we were like regular guys. I don't think we were like regular guys at all. But it has turned us into these instruments for justice. I've been out now, October 1st, it just passed 2 years. So I've been out 24 months and a week since I walked out. And when I got out of prison, before I got out of prison, I promised myself that I was going to do some things. When you're in there for something you didn't do and you're wrestling every day with trying to make sense of the reality that you live in, you make yourself a lot of promises. Most of all, destroying the system that did this to you. That's like all of our thoughts. What can I do so that this will never happen to somebody else again. And all of us came out the same way. This year that just passed, I just ran for state representative in the 11th House District, the newly formed 11th House District, which is part of the east side of Detroit, Harper Woods, and St. Clair Shores. And the reason that I ran for office is because, you know, lawmakers make laws, and everything that's on the books affected us, and there's things that should be on the books that actually will make it harder and more difficult, as well as, you know, lawmakers deal with funding. So instead of begging, coming to the table and begging, I wanted to come to the table on the other side of the table and be a part of the solution. I didn't win. I didn't win in the primaries. However, me running had every politician in every race in that area, from congressional races, the 12th and 13th district, as well as every other state representative in that area, talking about me running and justice reform. So at the very least, I made what we've been through a part of the conversation. If our lives wasn't stolen from us, tell them what we could have been. I could be governor right now. maybe not. But I could be governor right now. But what I'm doing with my life is trying to make things better. I formed my own business, Better Not Broken, LLC. That's the spirit in which I believe I stand. I believe I'm better and not broken. We are an exception to most wrongfully convicted people. We kind of make it look good. Don't mean we don't have our struggles, but most of us are not doing well enough to stand before you today. Wrongful convictions have a ripple effect through every aspect of your life. You lose relationships. Remember, you're convicted of murder. Most people turning their back on you. The state of Michigan said that you're guilty. The state of Michigan said that you did it. They're turning their back on you. Families broke up. Friends turning their back on you. All of the resources and the court fees, your lawyer fees, everything is mounting up. You lose everything. I lost everything. I lost my house. I lost my vehicle. I lost a lot of friends. I lost a relationship. I had a lot of people turn their back on me. Nothing but just a few people. And most people don't have a few people that sticks around. I was blessed enough to have just a few people that stuck around. But you lose everything. Everything. Time, as you can see up there, it says that so much time was stolen. Although we're out, you can't never get that back. You can build new relationships. Some old relationships you can rekindle or rebuild from that, but the time you can never get back. So my business, Better Not Broken. I do motivational speaking. I travel around the country doing my thing, but I also travel around the country with these guys. I'm a new author. My book just dropped October 1st on the anniversary of my release, called Better Not Broken. Pre-sales. You know, that's what we do. We just trying to make things better. We stay in their face. All of them. You know, we sit down with attorney generals. We've sat down with Dana Nessel. We've sat down with prosecutors all over Michigan, as well as all over the country, advocating for conviction integrity units. We've helped conviction integrity units get funding by testifying to commissioners. We do a lot of good that everybody sees, and we do a lot of good that don't nobody see. Nobody sees the phone calls that all of us get in the middle of the night. You know, our faces is out there so much that people just reach out to us for every little thing. And these guys always answer a call. I always answer a call when somebody needs us. But we are instruments of justice. Even though we've been through what we've been through, it created us into, as one of our brothers, Kevin Harrington, say, who's a fellow exoneree, say we're heroes. But all heroes have to go through something that almost breaks them in order for them to be what they are. But I'm honored to be here because if I can share my story, put a face on my story, as well as these men right here, before the world has an opportunity to taint you, then I've done my job. If you can hear our stories before you go off into the world, it's going to want you to go along, to get along. You're going to be working a job, maybe in the law field, where you see something's being done wrong. You're going to remember our faces, you're going to remember our stories, and you're going to know that you don't want to be a part of that. In fact, not only do you not want to be a part of it, you're going to fight for it. Now you don't have a choice. We've exposed our lives to you. So now you have to make a choice to stand on a particular side. So with that,
I think better when I'm standing up. Initially, I would like to thank Prof Charles Klahm for allowing us to be here. It's truly an honor. I'd like to thank the faculty of Wayne State University for also allowing us to be here. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you, and to my fellow panelists, Ken and Marv. As you heard, my name is Darrell Siggers. I served 34 years in prison for a crime I didn't commit. I'll just tell you a little bit about the backstory here. Age of 20, I go to my son and daughter's home. We having some drinks, party, we smoking weed. Some guys come in, fight breaks out. They've been told to leave multiple times. They won't leave. So it's 3 guys there, me, 2 other guys, and these guys leave. And I'm just going to summarize because I can talk to you all day. But they leave, as they get down the street, one of the guys gets shot and killed. I'm still at the home with my son and daughter's mother. 2 of the guys later claimed that it was me. So police say, I get a call, they say, look, man, we just want to talk to you. And I said, well, look, I don't want to talk to you. I'm not inclined to talk to the police. Because every time anybody in my neighborhood spoke to the police, it was not a good outcome. And I had known that from some of the folks, some of the older guys in my neighborhood. So anyway, my father said, well, look, boy, if you ain't got nothing to hide, you can talk to him. So I said, okay, I'll talk to y'all. As soon as they got out to my father's home, as soon as they see me, they attempted to slap the cuffs on me and say, you're under arrest for first-degree murder. And police typically lie. They're allowed to lie to you, even though you're not supposed to lie. And it's even a crime to lie to a police official or prosecutor. But they can lie to you to coerce you into signing a statement or whatever. So anyway, they take me to 1300 Bowling, downtown Detroit, and they keep me there for a while. And so initially they began to do the good cop, bad cop. One guy comes in, he's real nice. Hey man, how you doing? Would you like some coffee or sandwich or whatever? And he's real nice. He go back out, and then the bad cop comes in, and he's pointing his finger at me. He's shouting, I know you did this. You're gonna tell me you did this, da da da. And I'm scared to death because who's you gonna call? The very people who are subjecting me to this form of what I like to term as terrorism are people that you would normally call if someone is harming you. And so they don't get no statement from me, so they take me up on the 9th floor. Now, it's a little cracky, so it's February. So I figure ain't nothing in this room but a wooden bench, old rusty toilet, and a sink. And it's a crack in the window, and it's cold in here. And I'm thinking, I said, well, they're only gonna leave me in here for a little while, and they'll bring me back down. Well, they left me in there all night. So by the time I got back down the next day, I was frozen. I didn't have no clothes, and again, ain't nothing in this room but a wooden bench. There's no blankets, there's no nothing. So I'm frozen when they bring me down the next day. So they start the same routine again. So it goes on. He continues to tell me, we know you did this, you're gonna tell us you did this, and he go on and on and on and on with this stuff. And And so I see a window, and he says, look, I'm gonna give you 5 minutes, and I'm gonna go get a pen and a piece of paper. And when I come back, if you don't sign this statement, I'm gonna knock the shit out of you. So I see a window. I'm not about to sign no statement saying I did something that I didn't do. I run, jump out the window. Well, I don't know how high I am at this time. I'm 5 stories up. So halfway down, I'm thinking to myself, this was not a good idea. So when my adrenaline is pumping, so I hit the ground, I hit one landing, and I jump some more, you know what I'm saying? And it's incredible that I didn't kill myself. There's one individual one guy who did do this, he killed himself. He didn't make the jump. So I hit the ground, I break my wrist, break my ankle, but I'm just on automatic pilot, so I'm trying to get the hell away from these people, but they terrorize me. I mean, just think, like somebody will keep you in a room just for hours, just keep you there, and there's nothing you can do. There's no one you can call. You can't go to sleep, and they just keeping you there over and over and over. They're changing shifts so people come in and ask you questions. You're sitting there. There's nothing you can do. And so I'm exhausted. So anyway, long story short, they catch me, they take me to jail. I get to jail. This is the most horrible, nastiest, filthiest, dirtiest, stinkiest place. I think I'm in the Twilight Zone because I cannot believe that I'm here. I didn't put a cast on the leg, cast on the arm, so I'm not about to sit on this floor. And they got like, this room was designed for 25 people. They got like 50 people in this room, and this little bullpen. And we jammed in like sardines. And so you got alcoholics laying all on the bench, people laying on the floor, and I'm not about to sit on this floor. So I stand for about 6 hours till I couldn't stand no more. My leg is throbbing, and I'm in pain, and I'm exhausted. So I got to sit on this floor. So I got to sit down. And they're keeping us in here for this long. So they do this, they move from bullpen to bullpen to bullpen, and it's just horrible. I ain't even got to prison yet. And so by the time I get to trial, I'm exhausted. Go to trial, they give me a state lawyer, and they hide evidence from this lawyer. My case is based on what they call ballistic identification, where, they said that a bullet that was found in the victim's body matched the bullet that was found near my home. All a lie. They get this so-called firearm examiner. He get up there from the Detroit police. Oh, this stuff matches. He's signing all professional and all this stuff. And I'm looking at my lawyer telling him it ain't true. It ain't true. He just tell me, look, be quiet. So I don't say nothing else. We find out, and this guy testified. He said, oh, I've been an expert in the Detroit crime lab for 6 years. And he said, before you can even get to court and testify, you have to be certified and trained by someone who's a court-qualified witness as an apprentice for 2 years. What we do years later, 30-some years later, I ended up getting a copy of his personnel file. We found out this guy was not an expert at all. He had not been in the crime lab 6 years. He had not been in the crime lab 2 years as he had testified. He had been in there 364 days, all lies. So anyway, I get this information, and it ultimately leads to my release. I go to prison, and I never forget how, they put chains around your waist, chains around your ankles, chains around your wrist, and I actually felt like a slave. And they chained us to about 20 other guys. And so you got to duck walk with these guys like this out to a big old bus. And they took me to the oldest prison in the state of Michigan. Michigan was built in 1800, like a big old castle, scariest place you ever want to see. So I get in there, these big old guards, they big enough, look like they want to eat me. These guys, this humongous guy, and they telling us, get over there, strip, take off this. And like Ken and Marv, we've seen things that ordinary people shouldn't see. But all you can do in prison is keep going. If you see somebody get stabbed through the eye and a butcher knife come out the back of their head, which we've seen, and they fall on the ground, you better step over and keep going. That's all you can do. You cannot show any type of humanity, any type of weakness. It's predators. And if they see any type of weakness, they're going to prey on you. And so you just got to keep going. It's one of the most horrendous places. So imagine just walking around every day with a life sentence and there's nothing you can do. So you're essentially on death row. You're essentially on death row. You just ain't got a date to go to the gas chamber, but you're gonna die. And this was so imagine, as Marv said, the stress of all this stuff. But each one of us made the best of it. We lived in the law library. We stayed in the law. We ate the law, breathed the law, studied the law, because we knew that was the key. I remember when I was sitting in my trial, they was talking about statutes, they was talking about court rules, they was talking about all these different procedures, and I didn't understand nothing that they was talking about. But I made my bid and I said, nobody ever in life will know more about my life than me. And so I got my GED, I got my associate's degree. I began to study, trying to get my bachelor's degree. They cut the program out. And so I just studied. I began to study history, philosophy, and just began to learn all that I could learn. So at some point throughout as I continued to litigate, they appointed me 4 students from the University of Michigan, from the Innocence team, Innocence Project, or Innocence Clinic, should I say. It wasn't called that at that time. But anyway, they get on the case, and they go out and study, and I'm telling them, and I love these people. And this is why I love young people like you guys, because y'all ain't scared. Y'all that go out and do the work. See, some of these lawyers, they get old, they ain't gonna do no work. They gonna sit behind their desk and type on the computer or get that stuff to some paralegal and tell them to do the work. But see, young lawyers, they went out to the toughest neighborhoods and did the work. They measured the crime scene, they interviewed witnesses, and they found out that this so-called witness who said he's seen this crime could not have seen it from what he said he saw it. And this was years later. There was no street lights in the general area. The crime scene happened at 11:40 at night. It was over 50 feet away, and they did the measurements. And so we presented all this stuff to the judge at an evidentiary hearing, and she denied it. Motion denied, and they were heartbroken. To see them, they asked, it brought tears to their eyes. So as they was taking me out, I could see that they was hurt. And so I'm walking away. And so they put me in a bullpen, and they trying to come back and see me. And I tell them, just please, just go. Because I caused them so much pain. I didn't want to cause them no more pain. And so I'm crying. I don't want them to see me crying. So I turn away from them. And they not, it's just only a little bit square little window that they can see. So they come back, and they banging on the pain. Darrell, come over here, Darrell. I said, please, would y'all just go? I called y'all on that pain. Please, just go. We are not leaving you. We are not leaving you. So one of them was so short, she was barely even looking at the window. They were fighting. So they put their hands on the window as a sign of solidarity. We are not leaving. They stacked their hands up. Darrell, put your hand up here. Put your hand up here. And they did not stop fighting. They kept going and going and going. Again, that's why I like you people, man. You guys, y'all tough. You're willing to do the work. And so, and we'll get to a part where we'll talk about what you can do. You know, because there's a lot that you can do in the criminal justice field. And so, anyways, as I began, the more I began to educate myself, the more opportunity. Because when I first went, I was bitter. I was angry. I hated police. I hated judges. I hated prosecutors. I hated everything about the criminal justice system. But hate doesn't get you anywhere. And so, the more I began to educate myself, the more I began to understand that love and thinking positive, if you think positive thoughts, positive things will happen to you and for you. I know a lot of you go through things in your lives. All of us got struggles. All of us got problems that we go through. All of us got things that we need to get done, things that we're praying for. It's just our struggle was just different. And so as I began to think more positive things began to happen for me and to me. And ultimately, I got to give some thanks and appreciation to Valerie Newman of the Conviction Integrity Unit and Kim Worley, who's the Wayne County prosecutor who created the Conviction Integrity Unit. I went through that process, and that's how it's ultimately released. At the end of this, we're going to open this up for questions, so y'all can ask us any questions that y'all want to about, the criminal justice system or anything that you heard here. So I'm just trying to summarize this and just to give y'all a basic understanding of what we've been through. And I met these guys, solid guys. I mean, we've been through hell together. And it may seem like we're normal guys, but life for us ain't so normal. Because you do 10 years, 20 years, and I did 34. they didn't even have iPhones. So when I get an iPhone, somebody give me an iPhone, I'm like, man, this thing is the devil. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing do everything but walk. You know what I'm saying? I talk to this thing and tell me where I want to go. I ask this thing a question, it gives me an answer. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can say, look, what should I have for breakfast? You know, eggs and bacon. I don't know. I mean, these things. And I'm like, wow, this stuff is blowing my mind. You get in a car, it tells you where you need to go. You ain't got to look at the map no more. You just punch it in and whoop. It tells you where you want to go. It direction. I mean, it's just amazing. So many things have changed. For us, we walked in a circle. You know, in prison, you just walk in a circle. So it messes up your sense of direction. So if I'm in a restaurant and I go left, I come back out, I'm trying to go right. And I have to just remind myself to pay attention to signs. I mean, there's so much stuff that changes your mental faculties that you're not, it just takes a lot of time to adjust. You know, and I wish I could go back, man, and do what y'all are doing. And I wish I could go back and go to college, man, and study. So listen, man, look, y'all got a grand opportunity. Y'all at Wayne State University. Take advantage of this time. Be the best that you can be at everything. Man. Don't waste this time. You will not get a second chance to do this. Do not waste your time. Be the best that you can be. You know, I know y'all got problems in your life, and we all do. So if you got a problem in your life, and you can't go over, you can't go under, you can't go around, then you got to go through it. But the bottom line is you got to get past it. And you cannot be deterred by problems. You got to keep going. No matter what happens in your life, keep going. You know, if you see a problem as a problem, then it's a problem. If you see a circumstance as an adversity, then it's an adversity. But if you see a circumstance or a problem as just another obstacle in life that's necessary for you to get back, then that's all it is. But on the other side, and I know you go through things, you just don't understand. Why was it necessary that I go through this? All of us ask ourselves this question, why me? Well, when you get on the other side of it, you're stronger as a result of it. Some of you have been through some real tough struggles. Keep going. And don't let other people think that. Don't let other people define your path. Study, figure it out for yourself, and then exercise your right to get with guys like this, smart guys. Good dude here, man. This guy here, man, I can call him anytime. I got any problems. One of the smartest men I've ever known, one of the best men I've ever known. Him, Bill Brennan back there from Proven Innocence. Great guy. You know, so these guys, man, smart. Bill done took me all over the country. Jacksonville, Wyoming. I mean, on plane rides. We've been climbing mountains and all types of stuff, man. I mean, just amazing, man. And this guy was like 10 years older than me. And we got to like the second step, second leg. I mean, an actual mountain in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, an actual mountain. And it looked a lot shorter. You know, it looked a lot smaller until you get on the mountain. You know what I'm saying? You get on the mountain, it's like, whoa. And he going, he got trails and stuff. I get, and it's the elevation. So I'm like, and let the old dude out climb me, man. You know what I'm saying? Man, look, I said, okay. Look, man, we ain't going to the second level. We got to go back down. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, look, life is a mountain. You just got to keep climbing. You just got to keep climbing. Like, since I've been out, I've written a book. The book is called What You Need to Know Before Hiring a Lawyer and What You Need to Know Before Filing an Appeal. And it's 54 pages written in plain, simple language. It's on Amazon, it's on Barnes and Nobles. But I would recommend if anybody who has any inkling of getting involved with the criminal justice system, get this book. It will do you a it just provides you a wealth of knowledge of how this stuff really works, you know. And it's been so, and then I created an organization, should I say, a company called Legal Access Plus. And what we do, it's an online database for wrongfully convicted prisoners. What we do, we profile individuals' cases. So guys who inside, like, it's about 40 prisons in the state of Michigan. Guys call me all the time, you know what I'm saying? It's been, I think I called 3 calls just since I'm sitting right there. And they JPay me, which is a form of electronic communication, like electronic emails that they're allowed to send out. But what we do is we profile guys' cases. We say, listen, send us 500 words, a photo telling us, you know, just 500 words explains to potential investigators, private investigators, lawyers, experts, judges, innocence projects, whomever you want us to send your profile to. It provides them a little short synopsis of what it is you're in there for and how you was wrongfully convicted. And so, because in prison, you don't have access to everything you do in prison is controlled. So the only way you can get stuff out of prison, you can either write, phone call, or JPEG, which, as I said, is electronic communications, and they can shut that down at any point. And so in this day and age, like we was typing, like I used to spend, and these guys will too, all they give you in prison is a typewriter. Like you guys, if I show one of y'all the typewriter, you probably wouldn't know what it looked like, you know what I'm saying? Because y'all got computers and all this other stuff, man. But we had this little bitty manual typewriter, tap, 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 with a ribbon that goes across like this. And it was just Stone Age, but we made it work. You had to, that's all they would give you, you know what I'm saying? So as opposed to that, we allow individuals to post their profiles on our website, and then we'll post it on Facebook, and then we'll shop that to, as I said, lawyers, private investigators, experts, to give them access to potential resources that might want to help them. And so you should know this. There's, I think the United States incarcerates more people than any industrialized country in the world. I believe the stat says there's 2 million people incarcerated in the United States, and of those, they predict that 20,000 people are innocent. And they say that 4% of the people on death row are innocent. Just imagine that, you on death row, and the people that's supposed to be protecting your rights, the people that you would complain to about somebody harming you or terrorizing you, are the very people that's terrorizing you. So you locked in, there's nothing you can do. You waiting to die. You waiting for them to walk you to the gas chamber, put you in, put a needle in your arm, and kill you. That's our system. But there's a lot you can do. Like they got conviction integrity units. Now, I don't know if y'all know what conviction integrity units is. These are units within the prosecutor's offices that they've created, where they will go back and look at convictions that they themselves have prosecuted. And if they find new evidence that you're innocent or wrongfully convicted, they themselves will issue a motion to the court to release you, and you don't have to go through the criminal justice system, the process of filing appeals. Now, I've been to every court in the United States. I mean, in terms of, I've filed multiple appeals, and they were all denied. You should know this also. 97% of all appeals are denied. They're denied. So if you got 100 people, no matter if they've been wrongfully convicted or not, only 3% of them are going to get some type of relief. And of them, only one is subject to get out of prison. Only one. So that means 99 people out of 100, whether they're guilty or not, they're going to remain in prison. Only one will potentially get relief. So all of us have been blessed. All of us have been blessed to be free. And that may sound like something small, but it's not. For those guys who are on the other side, they understand this reality. And it's a sad reality. But all of us, we didn't let prison make us worse. We allowed it to make us better. We utilized the educational system that they had, and we were steadfast in doing what we knew we had to do to survive. And look, they was feeding us, we'll just give an example of how horrible it is. They was feeding us food that literally said on the box, not for human consumption, but institutional use only. It's animal feed. It's animal feed. That's what they was feeding us. That's how horrible our criminal justice system is. And I ain't up here just to complain. It's better to look for solutions. So what you guys can do, you can volunteer for conviction integrity units. You can volunteer for innocence projects. You can volunteer for college legal programs. You can volunteer for proven innocence with Bill Brennan back there. I mean, they got some internships right now for Oakland County Conviction Integrity Unit. They're looking for interns where you will learn a wealth of knowledge just because you're working with professionals. You're working with attorneys, you're working with prosecutors, you're working with judges, and lawyers, and you will learn so much. And then you won't just be on the outside thinking about what you can do to help. You'll be on the inside knowing what you can do to help. And you'll be in communication, potentially in communication with prison, and you will learn so much. Let me just ask a question. How many in here are into law? Wow. Who are social work? So that just about covers everybody. So all of y'all should come and get involved. I should have y'all sign a list and say, man, look, we got some programs for y'all to get involved. How many of y'all want to get involved with the criminal justice and solving some of this stuff? Absolutely, that's good. You know, I love you guys for that, man. I love you guys. Because you guys, I'm telling you, you guys are tough, man. I mean, it takes people who have the tenacity, the strength, the endurance, the perseverance to get involved with this stuff because it requires hard work. They got prosecutors that these guys wouldn't see, attorney generals who told
Ken and I went to Missouri and we met with the Attorney General in Missouri, Ruby Red, Republican state, and he's actually currently running for U.S. Senate. And the platform in which he's running on, he's weaponizing innocent people's lives that's in prison. And Ken and I met with him, advocating for someone that did 42, 43 years in prison. He's out now. In small part probably to our advocacy work. But the Attorney General looked us in the face and said, we don't have any innocent people in our prison system. And he did it with a smirk on his face.
What's his name again?
Eric Smith.
Eric Smith, Attorney General Eric Smith. Send me an email.
Thank you.
Kid, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, listen. There are some people that work within criminal justice that are just unbelievable in their mindsets, literally unbelievable. Of course, he told us that before he knew who we were. We hadn't introduced ourselves yet.
We snuck in it.
We snuck into the meeting, literally. And to put some context to that, right? This goes to show you just how committed we are. We found out on Wednesday at 6 o'clock at night that we got approved for this meeting that was happening on Friday at 10 o'clock in Missouri. We spent all of Wednesday night.
We got approved by the people that was going to sneak us into the meeting.
Right. Be clear about that. We were sneaking into this meeting. He had no idea we were coming. We were approved Wednesday night. We spent all of Wednesday night booking flights. We strategically booked our hotel, walking distance from where the meeting was going to be, so that we didn't have to rely on anybody to take us there. We booked the flight, made arrangements to get picked up from the airport, dropped off at the hotel, made it there Thursday night, slept, got up the next morning, and walked into a meeting with the Attorney General. We were back in Michigan the same night.
Right. But the day before, well, right before we got on the airplane to fly out there, we was with the Michigan Attorney General. Yeah. And we left that meeting and went straight to the airport, landed, got something to eat, got up early next morning, snuck into the meeting with the Missouri Attorney General. He tried to take us to a baseball game. He was going to buy us plane tickets if we was going to stay. No, we're not falling for that one. So we left that meeting and went straight to the airport, and we was right back in Michigan. Like, all that happened within 24 hours. And there was some other things that we can't really talk about that was like a beautiful thing. But, you know, we flew back laughing. And the guy's out of prison now, in large part to things that we were able to accomplish when we were there. They know he's innocent, and they still was trying to set him up to keep him in prison, even though they knew he was innocent. And Ken and I was able to discover some information that showed their setup, and we got the information to where it needed to be, and we flew back.
This guy, his mother died like what?
A few weeks before he was released.
He begged them, you know, his lawyers, it was prosecutors. Prosecutors asked this guy to let this guy out, that they made a mistake, and they still said no. His mother died. The guy was in a wheelchair. He's been in like 40-something years. I mean, that's just how cruel this system is. Then look, they got a guy, I think he's in Alabama, and what he does is he checks off all the people that he kills, you know.
An executioner?
Yeah, he's a prosecutor, but what he does, he takes pleasure in killing inmates, and he checks them off. You know how you go to the billiard, and they got that little thing you do like that for your billiard. That's what he do. You know what I'm saying? He has a replica of an electric chair on his desk. He takes pleasure in seeing guys, and then goes talks to the families of the victims, and lauds how many people he killed, and he's this warrior for justice. And we know our system is flawed. That's what I don't understand. We know our system is flawed. We know the police will lie. We know the prosecutors will lie. We know that inmates, or should I say witnesses, will make mistakenly, because eyewitness testimony is one of the most unreliable forms of evidence that can be presented. And statistics have shown that. And we know all of this stuff, and these prosecutors, they still want to kill people. And I just don't get that type of, the pathology of how they think and why they think this way. You know, they actually, some of these folks can know you are innocent and still want to keep you in jail. Right now, all of us got multi-million-dollar lawsuits pending. And the law department, who is responsible for defending the cops, they will go to any lengths not to have to pay us. I mean, they take us to depositions and keep us there for hours trying to poke holes in our story. They hire multi-million-dollar law firms just to come defend these crooked police officers. And there's nothing you can do. Like when a police officer does this stuff, when they lie, when they commit perjury, they don't go to jail. They got what they call qualified immunity. So really nothing you can do to them. Well, nothing you can do to them.
Can I address that?
Sure.
There's nothing we can do now, but it is something we can do going into the future. When the rubber hit the roads, the only thing that matters to those that's in power that can make the decisions to make it harder for police officers to do what they're doing, they only care if you vote. They only care if you vote. About 95%, if not more, of the exonerees that's gotten out in the last 3 years are black men. Almost all of us are black men. Black men in the community in which we are from are probably the least likely to vote. So they know coming into the door that we didn't hire them and we're not going to fire them. So we usually get the short end of the stick when it comes to justice. Like, we're not considered in the room. But all of our votes matter. If state legislators, if state representatives knew that you wanted to limit qualified immunity to where it just can't be some blanket to where corrupt police officers can do the things, because there was corrupt detectives in all of our cases, corrupt city officials in all of our cases. But they would never spend a day in jail for the things they did to us because they had this qualified immunity. In fact, our lawsuits, at the end of them, when they're settled, not a dime will come out of the police officers' pockets. Not a dime.
You pay for it.
You pay for it out the city. The city pays for it. So the city, our city council people, hires these lawyers that works for the city law department. They know what these detectives and these officers done to us, but they still hire armies to fight us on the other side. So we went through a hell of a fight fighting our way out of prison. A hell of a fight fighting our way out of prison. But then we have almost an equal, if not greater fight, because they try to destroy all of the work that the very government that they're representing put on. All of us got out through the Conviction Integrity Unit. Wayne County Prosecutor, Kim Worthy, the Conviction Integrity Unit ran by Valerie Newman. That's the government. But then you have the government hire these lawyers to try to shred what the government has done, just so they don't have to pay us your money. So it's like, I finally get my citizenship back. I finally get my citizenship back that should have never been taken from me to begin with. And then you treat me like I'm not a citizen. You hire an army to come up against me as if I'm not a citizen, to try to destroy me, because that's what they do. That's how it is right now. And the reason is, that's why Wrongful Conviction Day is even important, to bring awareness, because the more of us are aware and get involved and engage the system, it makes it harder for them to do that. When they know voters are not going to accept it anymore, when some of y'all start running for office, and you know how rebellious you young people are, once y'all get in there and start changing things around, you know what I'm saying? That's what it's gonna take.
Yeah, and y'all the change.
Y'all the answer. Like literally, y'all are the answer to the problems that's going on. Us old people, we done messed it up.
You need to get them out. You need to get them out.
Like, y'all the future, y'all smarter, y'all got access to more information, y'all have a heart like no other person that has ever been on this planet before y'all. Maybe not that last part. No, but seriously though, y'all are the answer.
Absolutely.
So, I want to piggyback off of both of those, right? Little known secret. The attorneys that got me out, that brought my case to the Conviction Integrity Unit, were student attorneys. The Lori Montgomery was a student attorney when I met her. She's a student attorney at Cooley. She hadn't passed the bar yet. She hadn't even become a lawyer. She was a student when we first met. She was assigned to the case. She went through law school. She passed the bar. She became an attorney. She did the memo that was sent to Val to get me out of prison. In 2018, some journalism students from Illinois took on my case as a case project. Those journalism students wrote an article about my case. That article became front page of the Detroit Free Press. Not long after that is when people started to take interest in my case. So the point of that was, you guys got way more power than you realize. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be sitting here if it weren't for people like you.
That's right.
I probably would not have had a shot at freedom if it weren't for some brave students. That's important to realize. Because I know there's some people in this room that are shy, probably get intimidated when you get in rooms with big people. Like, Marv's got a saying that, we say it internally, it rarely gets said out in the public, but prison took all the fear out of us. Literally all the fear out of us. We've been in rooms with some very high-profile people. And believe me, I seize the opportunity every chance I get. Because I want to know, what are you doing about criminal justice reform? What are you doing about innocent people? I interned for the city of Detroit this summer. A lot of people didn't know that. My internship came about starting with the Wayne State email about COVID funding in the city. I was sitting in my room doing homework one day and had nothing else to do, so I decided to log onto the Zoom for the city. And you get all of these public officials talking about all of this, what they're doing good for the city, what they plan to do with this $800 million in COVID money. What they didn't know, and neither did I, was that the mayor was going to take over the Zoom meeting. And he did. Out of nowhere, one of his staffers comes on and says, hey, the mayor's about to jump on. The mayor jumps on, another public official, big wig, and he's giving this long spiel about this $800 million that the city of Detroit is getting. He doesn't know what to do with all this money. So he's asking people to come and join the city of Detroit. We've got jobs, we've got money to pay people. And he goes through this like 20-minute spiel about this $800 million. Then they open it up for questions. Nobody says a word. So I unmute. I'm like, all right, you got $800 million. What are you doing for returning citizens? What are you doing to fix the police department? What are you doing to fix the prosecutor's office? What are you doing to make sure the people that really need the money are actually getting the money? Before I knew it, almost every staffer on the screen was messaging me, asking for my contact information. I ignored them for like 3 weeks. They kept messaging me, kept messaging me, kept messaging me. One day I respond thinking nothing of it. Yeah, I'm still interested. Yeah, what do you want? What do you need? We need you. We need your voice. Why? What the hell do you need me for? Because nobody likes to stand up to the mirror. You just started asking questions like nothing was wrong. He's human. Plus, he was on the screen. What was he going to do? Can't send a security team after me from through the screen, so I felt pretty comfortable asking whatever I felt like asking at that point. However, that led to an internship. I worked throughout the summer for the Human Resources Department to help build a resource guide for the city of Detroit for returning citizens so that people knew where the resources were. Sounds simple, until you quickly realize that none of the departments talk to each other. None of them. Craziest thing in the world. They all operate out of the same building, but nobody talks to each other. Transportation doesn't talk to housing. Housing doesn't talk to COVID. COVID doesn't talk to the police department. None of them talk to each other. So 90% of my internship was trying to figure out what departments house what information. So eventually I got pissed off, and I started talking to the mayor again, every time I seen him. Every chance I got. Now, they've got a resource guide in the city of Detroit. They didn't hire me again, but the point is, you can't shy away from opportunity, because you never know what that opportunity might bring. You can't. Those student journalists that brought my case to the front page of that newspaper were brave as hell. They traveled 2 weekends all the way from Illinois to interview people that they've never met and never talked to so that they can do that story. Those student attorneys were a lifesaver for me. You can be that change. Everybody in this room has an opportunity to be that change. Take advantage of it.
I ain't gonna be much longer. I just want to say this here. Just think about this. There are people, guys, women, in little bitty cells all across the United States who have been railroaded through these little hick towns. They've been given all white juries. Some of them were black, given all white juries, and just shuffled through the system, given life sentence, given death row sentences all across the United States. And it takes young people like you guys to get involved. I would even suggest that y'all just go on the prison website, find a prison inmate, and just write them on death row. Just write them. You know, you'd be surprised at what you would learn. They make these guys or these people out to be hardcore killers and murderers and all that stuff. In prison, we used to invite lawyers in, judges in, prosecutors in, doctors in, and they would come in and talk to us. They would sit down and we would have discussions just like this. And they would be surprised how intelligent some of the guys are, how motivated, inspired, educated they are. It's just some people who have taken maybe 20 seconds to make a bonehead decision cost them 20 years of their life. And our system is very, very unforgiving. And let me just give you this for context. In prison, just imagine there's nowhere you can go to be by yourself. There's always a prisoner within 2 feet of you and a camera that's watching you. So there's nowhere you can go to be by yourself. And when you come out your room, you're moving with between 250 guys to 500 people at the same time. So, and you got this little bitty space to move through. And so when they call for mass movement, you come out and the doors swing back, everybody's moving at the same time. 300 or 400 people moving at the same time in this little bitty space. It is just the most incredible thing. When I first seen this stuff, I had to almost step out of myself to see myself in this little bitty space. And you got to get from point A to point B within 10 minutes or all the doors are locked. So and then you're going to get a ticket. So you got to get where you got to be in a certain amount of time. So this guy's screaming, this guy's howling, this guy's fighting, this guy's stabbing each other. And you just got to get to where you got to go. But all of this energy in a small, maybe, these hallways maybe 20 feet, and you got 300 people or 200 people moving down this little bitty space at the same time, and the noise is stifling. I mean, it's just the most incredible. See, most people see prison one-dimensionally. They just see it as a guy going in a cell. They don't see that when you go on a visit, you know, when it spreads butt cheeks so they can see that you didn't smuggle, your family didn't bring you no drugs in. So you had a really, really nice visit. You done seen your daughter or your mother or whomever. Now you got to go off the visit. You got to take off everything you got on, and the guard got to look up in you to see if you smuggled something. I mean, this is, people don't see the real horrors of prison. I mean, and so you wonder why people aren't so screwed up when they get out, because it is truly a traumatizing, the whole process is just a traumatizing affair. It's just horrible. But if you got the tenacity, the endurance, and the perseverance, because I just refuse to just give up and surrender my life like a coward based on a lie. There's a lot of guys that they just accept it. They just say, look, the law is too hard. It's too hard to get out. My appeal's been denied, so fuck it. I'm going to be here. I'm going to play chess, checkers, play games, or whatever. I didn't play no games when I was in prison. None. I never played chess, checkers, backgammon. I didn't play baseball, football, nothing. I never played games because I felt like that was a complete waste of time. I just didn't do it. I lived in the law library. I used that time to maximize my sense of education and stay dedicated to being free, because I have 3 children. Unfortunately, 1 month after I got home, my oldest daughter passed. Nothing in life could have prepared me for that. To lose my daughter, lost my mother, lost my father, lost a brother, lost a sister, youngest, oldest daughter. And so, and you wonder why, people say, man, I couldn't have done it. You'd be surprised what you can do if you're forced to do it. I'm not going to cry about life. I could complain, and I got 1,000 things I can complain about. But every day I wake up, I look for a reason to smile. I'm positive. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to smile. People say, man, how you doing, man? I'm having a blast. Really. You know what I'm saying? I'm traveling. I'm going where I want to go. I'm eating what I want to eat, doing what I want to do, driving what I want to drive. So I can look back at the past and be sad and mad, but I choose to be glad and appreciative. I thank you all for listening to me. And if any of y'all have any questions, please ask us. And I got some cards here that you can take a card. You want to look up my video, so maybe talk to me at some point and look up what we're doing. Thank you very much.
Some heavy stuff. No matter how many times I hear Darrell's story, it shakes me. So I know that everyone probably came here under the impression that there was going to be coffee, tea, and pastries. I did not lie to you, I promise. Kenneth knows this. As a fellow WSU warrior, we were Wayne-stated. So what happened was, when we made the reservation, we told them we were going to have food, and they didn't say we couldn't until after we followed up with them, and they said, oh, it's in a different room close to the auditorium, which was another instance of being Wayne-stated, because it's nowhere near this auditorium. It's actually the other entrance. It's the Simmons room. So we're going to break from here. We have about 3 minutes for questions. Or we can informally ask questions over there, because Kenneth, Marvin, and Darrell are going to join us for some coffee and pastries and teas. You can ask them whatever you would like. One thing that I would ask of all of you for them is be the multiplier effect. Right? You can do all the things that they said in terms of volunteering, but one of the easiest things for you to do is challenge conventional wisdom. Right? You don't have to be as provocative as me. You don't have to walk around with t-shirts that say death penalty kills innocent people, or have a whole drawer full of shirts similar to this. But when someone says something that's stupid, politely tell them it's stupid.
Or directly. You can directly tell
Yeah,
them.
you can tell them, but and then recall on their stories. Challenge what people think these three beautiful humans suffered. And people should know about it, because it shouldn't be happening. So, yes.
One last final word. I want to make sure I say this before we walk out of here and take a break. But please, I know we might have gave off the impression, but please don't mistake us to be pro-defense, anti-prosecutor, because we're not. We're not at all. We're pro-justice. We've worked directly with prosecutors. We've worked directly with attorney generals. We've worked directly with legislators. We're not anti-anything except injustice. We stand for justice. That's it. And whoever's on the right side of that line is who we team up with. When we were moving around in Missouri, we were partnering with the local prosecutor down there. A lot of the work we do in Michigan is side by side with the prosecutor. I know at one point, none of us probably believed that would be the situation. On the inside, you never could imagine having the opportunity to work with police or prosecutors. The reality is, we just got a call this morning to go into the Wayne County Jail on the juvenile side. Guess where the call came from? The Sheriff's Department. We're not anti anything except injustice. We are for justice, no matter how it looks. I've been texting with lawmakers in real time. As they were debating the bill on the floor, they were texting me asking questions. How do we supplement this? What's the best way to word this? We're not anti-prosecutor at all. And I made it my business to say that, because when Darrell asked the question, how many of you were in law school, quite a few of you raised your hands. We need good prosecutors. We absolutely need good prosecutors. If we had good prosecutors, none of us would have been to prison. That's a fact. Because somebody's moral compass probably could have changed the outcome of one of our lives, or all of our lives. We sit up here before you today representing over 3,200 innocent people throughout this country. That's a lot of innocent people. Over 27,000 years taken away. Darrell was locked up longer than most people in this room has been alive. That's injustice. And it's an injustice that he didn't ask for. But we refuse to quit. We're not going to lay down. We're not going to stop fighting. You shouldn't either. For those of you that are going to become lawyers, you're the first line of defense for somebody's life. Mm-hmm. You're the only thing standing between that person and the cage, or the death penalty, or suicide for some people. Some people don't make it out on the other side of a wrongful conviction. That's something to keep in mind for those of you that do become lawyers. You're the first line of defense. You're the only thing he has to count on. Take your job seriously. Fight vigorously. Question everything. I was a 19-year-old kid that knew nothing about the law. The only trouble I'd been in prior to being arrested was a traffic ticket. I had no choice but to rely on the lawyer that was representing me. I didn't have a choice. And look what it got me. You're the first line of defense when it comes to criminal justice. Never forget that. Never forget that somebody's life is in your hands. It's easy to look at that stack of papers as a stack of papers. It's easy to look at that pile as a number or a case file. But never forget there's a human life attached to that. Somebody is going to suffer the consequences of your decisions or indecisions. Right, wrong, or indifferent. Somebody has to deal with the consequences of that. As a lawyer, that person should feel like his loss is your loss. Your win is his win. It takes passionate people with big hearts to win at this game. This is not a system for the faint of heart. There's a lot of lawyers that don't make it out on the other side of this. There's a lot of lawyers that quit and do something else because they can't stomach the emotional turmoil that comes with representing people in the criminal justice system. Every one of us know a lawyer that became a lawyer for the right reason and quit being a lawyer for all the wrong reasons. Take your job seriously. It's meaningful. It's purposeful. You can save a life, an innocent life. I don't know any lawyer in this country that wants that on their conscience, that they couldn't thoroughly represent an innocent person and that person went to prison. Do your jobs. We came here today to inspire you to do your jobs. It was students that changed my life, that gave me my life back. That's not befallen on me. Those people today have become my friends. I hang out with those people. I go places with those people. I talk to them regularly because it's important to me.
You got all these young people in here, and ain't nobody took a picture. If somebody gonna pull out their phone and take a picture, listen.
Professor Klahm, your head's in the way. Don't zoom in.
Also, this video of this presentation will be on our website, which is provinginnocence.org, just in a day or two.
So, you make your way to the Simmons room?
Oh, anybody that wants to intern or volunteer for the Oakland County Conviction Integrity Unit, their cards are up here.